President, I ask that the Senate take note of a question that I put to Senator Brandis a short time ago, and the complete vacuous absence of an answer. A little bit earlier in question time, I asked about the ASIO Director General's warnings to major political parties about receiving offshore donations, which could be perceived, ideally, in the minds of any reasonable person, as raising the potential for cash for policy, cash for foreign policy commitments. And Senator Brandis, personally I think every senator in here is used to being addressed by Senator Brandis as though they were lesser beings beneath the contempt of his formidable intellect. It's like the Dunning-Kruger effect took human form and shared his presence with us today and dropped his little bundle of condescension on us. We're all used to it, but today I think was something of a special case. This is a deadly serious issue. This is a question of whether fairly senior and exceptionally well-resourced people, in this instance with links to the Chinese Communist Party, are dropping enormous amounts of money on Liberal, National and Labor Party serving MPs. And the questions that I think you could quite reasonably ask about what they expect in return. The revelations I'm going to focus on a little bit, and the purpose of asking the question today were outlined in a fairly recent Fairfax Four Corners report, which sparked the government into a certain amount of action on donations reform. We saw a vote a little bit earlier today where some of these matters are going to be returned to the closed shop, known as the Parliamentary Joint Committee on Intelligence and Security. I think it's fascinating that it's the major parties who are receiving these donations have flipped this question to a joint committee with no crossbench representation. Mr. Andrew Wilkie served, I would argue, with distinction on that committee for a couple of years before the incoming Abbott government wiped out crossbench representation. So the major parties in this closed shop are going to effectively be adjudicating themselves. Billionaire Chinese property developers Huang Xiaomo and Chao Chuk Wing and their associates have made nearly $6.7 million in political donations to the government and to the opposition. And what do you get in exchange for transactions of that magnitude? I know Senator Dastyari's in the spotlight again this week, and there's now infamous comments, obviously, regarding the South China Sea dispute. Shortly after Mr Huang reportedly threatened to withdraw a proposed donation of $400,000 to the Australian Labor Party, if then for a defence spokesperson, Senator Conroy, continued to criticise China's militarisation of the South China Sea. Now, I happen to think Senator Dastyari got it right, and I was surprised at the time that the Labor Party was taking such a hard-line and inflammatory approach to the questions of the South China Sea. And I never quite understood exactly where Senator Conroy was coming from. But the fact that this about-face on foreign policy, like a really significant and important area of foreign policy, announcement being made off the back of a $400,000 donation, I think calls into question really whether this kind of practice should be banned, should be allowed at all. Because irrespective of what you think of those making these comments or the various policy positions being put forward, the very fact that they're coming straight off the back of these inordinately large donations, I think, is cause for enormous concern. Former Liberal Trade Minister Andrew Robb, an $880,000 a year contract, which he won the day before the 2016 election while he was still the member for Goldstein. And there's a part-time consulting fee that was offered by another Chinese government-linked billionaire, Li Cheng, who purchased the 99-year lease on the port of Darwin. That was something that the United States security agencies called the Australian government into question. Equally alarming, obviously, was Mr Huang's donation of $100,000 to Mr Robb's Bayside Forum, which is his campaign donations vehicle, the day of the signing of the Free Trade Agreement in 2014. Now, the focus this week, obviously, is on donations from offshore. But the Greens believe that while major parties continue to accept donations which buy influence and inspire distrust in the people that elect them, whether they're coming from foreign governments like China or the United States foundations that write cheques for Senator Bernardi, the domestic donations, in my view, are also poisoning not just the political process but certainly the perception of whether people think that their politicians and the policies that come out of this building is being bought and paid for. We need to do better.